Hey, good morning guys. Thank you so much for watching the Driver Side Chats. My name is Philip and it is another beautiful day in North Carolina as always. I will say it is a little cloudy. We might see some rain today, but I guess time will tell. So in yesterday's video, I discussed free cars for life, and now I want to talk about executing that plan for having free cars for life. It's a plan that can work, but there are a couple ways you can execute it, and I'm going to share my opinion on the best way to execute. So yesterday we talked, let's just say that we've built up $120,000 and you want to go get a car, okay? This is what we brought. I brought up the Raptor example because I want a nice truck, right? Now, a brand new Raptor fully loaded, similar to what I would like, MSRP on those is $72,000. So let's just pretend here that I've got this $120,000 and I'm gonna go buy a brand new Raptor, okay? There are two ways I can do this, and this is the purchasing example, and we'll talk about leasing in a minute. So if I wanted to buy a Raptor, let's just say that for sake of making the numbers super simple, I was making 10% interest on my 120 grand and I was financing $72,000 at 0%. Now there's gonna be a couple caveats there, okay? I realize that because you know, you're not gonna get 0% on a $72,000 truck. Anyway, so let's just say that was the case, okay? My payment on a 72-month plan, because it's a $72,000 finance, 0% is $1,000 a month exactly. Now, at 10% interest on $120,000, that's $12,000 a year, meaning that every month I'll earn $1,000 to go towards that car, that truck. So in 6 full years, I'll have earned $1,000 a month, and I'll have the title to the car, and I'll still have $120,000. Probably more so, because generally speaking, your interest is going to be doing a lot of work for you, and will help, you know, get you ahead still even too. Now, here is where it can go wrong when you're paying cash. By the way, just a little side note, you can't ever be 100% sure the stock market will make money every year. The 10 to 12% is an average on what it'll do. So that's what it's been consistently doing over a longer period of time. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So let's pretend now that you decided to buy this $72,000 Raptor, but let's just say that you were able to get it for $70,000, okay? Maybe you bought one that wasn't quite as nice, you negotiated the price down, which if you can do that, believe me, you're a very good negotiator. You know, but you're able to get it for $70,000 exactly. And you still have that 120 grand. Now let's just think through it for a minute. That means you're gonna write a check for 70, and that 120 grand is now only worth $50,000. Now you have the title of the truck, so that is something. So I'm not discounting the fact that you paid cash for your truck. I think that's a good thing to do, and I think, you know, if it works, if it's willing to take a little bit more of a loss on the finances, or to have that security knowing it's paid for, that's fine. I have no problem with that. However, when you pay cash for it, now you've got $50,000 left in that account. And let's just say that it's going to be 10%, just because, you know, that's what we've been using. But we'll make it even better. Let's say that your investment for the average of 6 years earns you $10,000 a year in interest. Now that's probably going to be hard to do. You might can make up more of it in the last couple of years, but to average $10,000 a year on a starting investment of $50,000, that's going to be relatively difficult. Not saying it can't happen, but I'm just saying probably a lot harder to do. 10 grand a year for 6 years equals $60,000 plus your 50 puts you up to $110,000 plus the title of the truck that you would have earned if you had made payments on it. Now, that's a $10,000 deficit, and that's assuming you're averaging $10,000 a year. Of course, there are the different risk involved there, and you're not guaranteed that everything's going to work out perfect. So you've got to understand that from the start. However, it seems as though if you paid it off in 6 years, you still have that extra money. Then you have the $10,000 that you're earning interest on. Plus, in 6 years, you'll have gotten the title to the truck anyway. So, in my mind, I think in some cases it makes sense to finance instead of actually just paying cash for it, because even your interest rate, no matter what the numbers are, generally speaking, your investments will earn more money off of interest than you'll pay interest on financing. Now again, it's not guaranteed and it's not a 100% fail-proof idea. However, the stock market average says you have a higher paid out interest, and if you're good with your finances, you shouldn't have to worry about paying a high interest because you're good with your finances and you have a good credit history. So now, here comes the other question, buying or leasing. I think I talked very briefly about it yesterday, about leasing a vehicle instead of buying, but I want to maybe explain it out a little bit more for you. I've only got about 5 to 6 more minutes to explain it, so here it goes. When you buy a car, it's as simple as that. It's just like you buy anything else in the store. Okay, you pay for it and it's yours, 100% yours. When you finance, once it's paid off, then it again becomes yours. Now with leasing, the ownership is a little bit different. So when you lease a car, they give you rights and access to the car for the average lease is a 24-month lease or a 36-month lease. Okay, and then you're given an allotment of either, generally, on average, 10,000, 12,000, or 15,000 miles a year. And so that could be 30,000 a year, 24, or if you're on a 3-year lease, that could mean 30,000 total miles, 36,000 total miles, or 45,000 total miles. And each of these are going to give you a different type of payment depending on how long and how many miles you do. Okay, they have something called residual value, saying the car will be worth this much in 3 years with this many miles, and it could be at 70%. And so based on that percentage is going to be based on what your payment is going to be. Plus they'll probably try to snag a little interest on top of that. Now, generally speaking, if you're going to go with that plan, your payments are generally going to be lower to lease it than it would be to buy it. Now, if you're like me, you're probably the kind of person that's going to want to get a car every 2 to 3 years anyway. So leasing somewhat will make sense, and here's why. If you're financing a vehicle and you've purchased it, within 3 years, you're likely to still be upside down on your trade, meaning that you're going to owe more on the trade than what it's actually worth, or what the dealership will give you for it. Whereas if you pay cash, it is going to be 100% equity, so whatever it is just whatever it is. With having a lease, when you turn in your lease at the end of that 3-year, 2-year term, whatever it is, then what that'll mean is that you give them the car back and it's gone. So you don't have to pay any extra fees. There might be closeout fees, but that's something that you know up in advance, and that's something you can negotiate in the price. Now, apart from all of that, there is no positive equity. So in the rare circumstance, if you have paid cash for it, or if you put a lot of money down and you've got equity in your vehicle, well, in a lease that just doesn't happen. Okay, but the good thing is you don't have negative equity either, so you don't owe any more than what it's worth. That's for the car manufacturer to do with what they please. So having a lower payment and being able to get yourself into a new car every few years, technically, if you're really, really looking the science of it, they probably do make a little bit more money off of it. However, if it makes more sense to spend less money while your principal money is making you more money, it almost makes more sense to lease. So I feel like leasing could be the better example. Now take, for example, getting a Lexus maybe. Okay, you can do a very nice Lexus with good negotiating and with a decent amount of miles. You can get a Lexus, a nice one, for $400 to $500 a month. And I'm talking about a nice Lexus. I'm not talking about entry-level Lexus models. I'm talking about a nice Lexus. And I mean, that's not so bad. You get a $55,000 vehicle, and when you got 130, 140 grand just sitting in an account that's paying out $1,200 a month in interest, you're still making a net profit of $700 a month to be applied towards whatever. you and your spouse could drive a Lexus like that and still have money left over to help build that fund up some. So that's an idea there for you. And at the same time, it starts to build you some vehicle credit as well. And your net worth continues to grow, so you're able to keep up with the fact that you can continue to buy more and more expensive vehicles. And it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I personally am probably going to end up going for the lease when we can do this. That way, you know, I can get into different cars every so often. My wife is more so the type of person who wants to keep a car longer. So we may end up purchasing a vehicle for her. You know, at this point, it's too soon to tell. I don't know what we're going to do yet. She may end up getting a lease, but that's just going to depend on when the time comes. If I were to get a Raptor, generally they don't do leases on a Raptor. That's something that I would buy personally. So every situation is different, and every circumstance is different. For an F-150, in general, because I actually looked at the numbers on it because I was just more curious than anything. In most cases, the F-150s that you can lease, even a nice F-150, I mean, you can get like the ones with the leather, the heated, cooled seats and such. The lease payments are about the same as the actual car payment itself. So in some cases, you might as well go ahead and buy it. It's all dependent on multiple things. So that'll really kind of end the video here on why it could potentially be better to lease and not necessarily buy it, but in some cases it may be better off for you to buy. Ultimately, what you got to do there is you got to evaluate what you want the car for, how long you plan to keep it, and when you're going to want to replace it, and if you're going to want to keep it at a higher value or lower value. And there's a lot of questions. We can go into that later. Maybe that'll be a video for next week, but at this point I am pulling into work and I'm actually running a little behind today. Not late, just FYI, because I know I've talked about it, but running a little bit behind my general schedule. So I'm gonna need to go ahead and jump on off, but thanks guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great weekend.